another cello tip Tuesday live stream. It's actually Thursday, but because of my recent traveling, things are happening now on a Thursday, the last day of June, and I want to ensure you all get your tips. Oh, someone asked, how are you? That's very considerate of you. Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm a little tired. I'm getting used to the time zone change of being back in Las Vegas. And I think I've been here maybe a full day, a full 24 hours, and my body's a little confused. So, but other than that, I'm doing well. I'm very excited to see all of you dolls. There is some exciting progress with the album that is coming. So, late fall, there's going to be a Cello Doll album. For those of you who don't know that, you might be new to the page. Hello everyone. So please follow me on socials. I mean, most of you are here, so I'm assuming you do, but there's going to be news about the album coming out up until the release at the latter half of the fall. So please stay tuned for that. Check up on my Instagram, YouTube, Facebook for updates on that. So excited. This is a huge project. Lots of love and time is going into this. So stay tuned. And today we're doing cello tips. And if you're not a cellist, that's okay. I love talking with musicians in general. If you have any questions about college, if you're considering a career in music, any questions, that is what we're here for today. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chats. And, oh, thank you. Someone said, cannot wait for the album. Thank you. That's so sweet. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chats for questions. And if I don't see anything, I'm going to talk about some of the things I did in teaching this week. I teach private lessons. Right now, my entire teaching is virtual, and it's always helpful for me to see what budding cellists need as I teach them. So I'll share some of that with you today until I see a question in the chat. So I want to talk about the bow. So I know that's, what about it? There's a million things. I wanted to talk about some tips for beginner and intermediate cellists when you start encountering dynamics. And I'm thinking of making a detailed vlog on this for YouTube. So please let me know, especially on YouTube, in the comments if this is something that would interest you. It's about a formula on bow use to get you started in the right path to dynamics, a way to connect the technical with the musical. And there are going to be some exceptions, but this is a great place to start. So let's talk about soft dynamics. Piano, pianissimo, mezzo piano. Piano means soft, and then there's variations on how soft. But in general, bow speed, I find, oh, we have questions. We have questions. Yay. Okay, I'm going to put a pause on the bow stuff. I'm sorry. I just want to get to these. So exciting. Can you tell us how to avoid the shoulder pain when practicing? Sure, it depends on which shoulder you are experiencing the pain in, but I will cover both. I am sorry that, okay, and I look at the second question. I'm sorry you're experiencing pain. And I think it's great that you have that self-awareness where if something is painful or uncomfortable, that is a sign we need to stop and reevaluate, because playing should not be painful. And if you're experiencing pain in your shoulders, the most common Awesome. I see more questions. Don't you worry. I will get there. So the question about the shoulders, it's usually because our shoulders creep up. That is the most probable cause of shoulder pain. So you want to have your shoulders feeling like you do a shrug. And that's something I encourage students to do, is play something and in the middle of it pause and do a shoulder shrug. And do that, and that release is something you want to incorporate over time. So I'm going to pick something I was talking with a student about today. Berceuse from Suzuki. I'm going to pause. All right, let's keep going. Pause. Little shrug. All right, I'm doing well. I'm going to try to demonstrate if it's not going well. And as you can see, this is an exercise to do on a piece you're already familiar with. So you know the notes, you have a great handle on the rhythm. This is kind of a physicality exercise for comfort. So this is hard to do on something brand new. So I'd recommend doing it on something you're very comfortable with. So I'm going to do it with really hiked up shoulders. So and you notice I exhale too. And it's hard. You don't want this to happen. You see how my bow goes onto another string? You want it to just be in the shoulders. So I'm going to keep going. They'll start to creep up maybe, and then you go, wait a minute. You see that? So checking in, you are correcting a habit that your body has learned, and that's an exercise you can do. Another exercise for the shoulders, I don't know if it's an exercise, but it's something to watch out for, is your bow arm. So if my elbow is high, it's very easy for the shoulder to join. So I tell students, you want the elbow to be the lowest part of your bow arm. So it's going to form a V shape. So again, the elbow is higher, then my wrist is the lowest point right now. And as you can see, my shoulder, they're very uneven. It's very easy to do this if your elbow isn't correct like that. So those are a couple ways to get you started. Making sure your elbow is the lowest point. And if you say, but cello doll, when I do that, I scrape the lower string, I start off correct, and then I hear the lower string creeping in, then you got to check the wrist. We don't want anything tight. This is too much. You just want a little bend. You don't want a flat wrist. You want a little bit of a curve. And that curve is going to help prevent you from dipping down and hitting a lower string. So again, the shoulder shrug, the low elbow, and if your elbow is right, it's the lowest point of your bow arm. Then your wrist will have the tiniest little bend. You don't even have to really think about it too much. You just don't want the wrist flat. You just want a little bit of a curve. So I really hope that helps with your shoulder pain. I'm so sorry you're experiencing that. And again, the top reason for that is the shoulders being up. So I don't want you to force your shoulders down, because when I was young, I thought that was what I was supposed to do, because I played with high shoulders for a long time. And you just have to release them. You don't have to force them down, because that is also tense. You just need to think of it as releasing a shrug and kind of being in relaxed, neutral territory. For those of you who might not play cello, or maybe don't play a musical instrument, think about this when you're sitting at your desk, if you have a desk job, or if you're sitting at the kitchen table, doing stuff on your computer or reading, you'll be surprised how naturally we want to creep our shoulders up. I catch myself doing it sometimes in day-to-day. We hold a lot of tension in our shoulders. And yeah, you just really want to be careful of that. So even in day-to-day life, check in on your shoulders. Someone wrote, I do not play, but I heard you play, and I have to say it was really great. Oh, thank you so much. Very excited when I get to share my cello and my music with you all. That's very sweet. Thank you. There was an earlier question on Instagram about tension in the bow hand. What can we do about tension in the bow hand? And what we can, oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I see something in the chat and I pause mid-sentence because I don't want to miss any questions, so I'm sorry. I know I do that a lot. The bow hand, tension in the bow hand. So there's a couple reasons why this might be happening. The bow hand is more complicated, I think, than, there's so many things going on. You have to manage the fingers, the wrist. What is the thumb doing? That's a little teaser for this tip. So a couple ways tension can come in the bow hand is if our thumb doesn't move. Our fingers in general need to be malleable, meaning they're not going to be a frozen shape. They have to be able to move and adjust with the playing. So, well, how do we do that? That's really difficult, especially for beginners. That's very difficult. So, this is one of my favorite exercises. You might have seen this on my channel. Is I hold the tip, I loop it in my thumb, and I do spider push-ups. And I saw another question in the chat, any tips for beginners? There's a whole lot on my YouTube channel, wink, wink, but there's so many tips for beginners. And I think this is a great, great exercise. So you don't even need your cello to do it. You can be watching TV and say, every time it's a commercial break, I'm gonna do bow push-ups. So you hold the bow, loop it in your thumb, and you curve the fingers, and you drop the fingers straight, including the thumb. The thumb is doing the same thing. You curve all your fingers, and then you drop them. Curve all the fingers, including the thumb, and then you straighten them a little bit. So that will help to encourage movement in your fingers. And notice I'm not doing it with my wrist. That's a common mistake. People think, I'm doing it. Yeah. No, your wrist is doing it, but you want it to be just your fingers. I'm going to try to hold it up a little closer here. So straight, and then curve it up. Straight. Curve it up. Okay, so you can do this a little bit. That will help. And that will encourage the fingers to be more flexible. And I want you to think frog, drawing the bow. Frog, drawing the bow. Because when you're at the frog, your fingers can be relaxed. And then as you pull the bow, you pick it up. You pick up the sound with your fingers. And unfortunately, I know on Instagram we're vertical, so you might not see it. But you can start to see a little bit as I draw the bow. And by the time you get to the tip, your fingers are curved. So frog, tip, frog, tip, frog, tip. So do it with your scales. Do scales in long tones or open string long tones to just focus on that. And then try to do it in, again, a piece you know the basics, you know the rhythm, you know the notes, you feel comfortable and can play it all the way through. think about the bow with that. Another thing with a tense bow hand is if your fingers are spread like this. I mean, it looks uncomfortable. Look at it. It looks like a spider that's splat. I don't know. You know what I mean? It just, if your fingers are spread out like this, that really makes it hard for your hands to work together. You want your hand to work as a unit. So if you have the fingers a little closer, that's going to help you feel like you have more control. If you're spread like this, you're going to be like gripping for dear life because there's not a lot of flexibility. So think about having the hand a little, the fingers of the hand closer together. So that's a great place to start. And the person who asked about the bow hand tension, I hope you heard my comment about the low elbow, because if we're not secure with our weight, if anything seems insecure, not doing its job, our hand can clench, our hand can compensate. Think about if you're driving a car and you're nervous, or if you get nervous when you fly an airplane, you grip, the term white knuckling, you grip onto the steering wheel, you grip onto the chair. Our body reacts that way with uncertainty. And if you're doing a physical activity and your mechanics aren't in the right place, if your elbow is suspended, your hand's gonna grip on. So the whole body's interconnected. And again, I'm not a certified doctor or specialist. These are just things I've noticed. These are things I have noticed throughout teaching cello and being taught cello. These are just trends I have. These are things I have noticed. Also, shout out to WT Baldumas on Instagram who bought the first badge. Thank you so much. That's really, really kind of you, and I really appreciate that, and that support is amazing. For those of you who might not know, on Instagram, that's kind of a way to do tips on Livestream, is you can buy badges for people. So thank you so much, WT Baldumas. Very, very thoughtful. Thank you. Comment on YouTube. Did my first performance ever at a friend's wedding. Congratulations for your friend and for your first performance. Been practicing for about 1.5 years. I wasn't as tense as I thought I'd be. That's amazing. Congratulations, Danny. Thank you for sharing. I think it's helpful to play for friends, especially if you're a beginner. I don't know, some people think, I guess it depends. Some people get nervous playing in front of people they know. Some people prefer to play in front of strangers. It depends on the person. But I think it is nice because if you're playing for friends, you're already playing for people who love and support you. It's a very comforting, safe space. So I think performing for friends is amazing, especially if you're not used to performing and you want to get more comfortable with that. I know when, excuse me, I know when I was in college and we had in conservatory, there's this process called your end of the year jury, where it's basically your playing exam, where it's kind of like your final exam for your lessons. You get credit for your private lessons in college. And so you have to bring the repertoire you were preparing all semester, and you perform it for the faculty, and they grade you. So that is what a jury is in short. And I remember, a couple weeks leading up to juries, everyone would grab their friends and say, come listen to my jury pieces. Come listen to my concerto real quick. Come listen to my sonata. We would practice playing for each other for 2 weeks before juries, everyone would play for everybody because it's great practice. So that's awesome. Another question I saw earlier on in the live stream was from one of my IG pen pals, Juan. Hello, Juan. He asked about the differences playing an acoustic cello versus an electric cello. And just saw a new question. I will get to it, I promise. Acoustic cello versus electric cello. There are so many differences. Oh my goodness. The tuning of the strings and the layout of the fingerboard are the same on an acoustic versus an electric. The difference in that can be some electric cellos come with 5 strings. Some people get an E string, which is the highest string on a, sorry, wrong octave. Sorry, disregard that. It's this E. Some people get a 5th string with that E. I someday want an electric cello with a 5th lower string. I think that would be so cool to have a low F string beyond the cello range. So I want that someday. But in general, the layout is the same. And I can go get V really quick. I want to show you guys V. Hold on. So I don't have V in the playing harness, so it's going to be a little different, but I want to show you my electric cello. I don't know, some of you newer dolls might not know V. Hold on. Okay. So, okay. This is my electric cello V by NS Design. I love V. VI. That's the name I gave him. And as you can see, the body shape is very different than some of the other brands you might see of electric cellos. And I wear V on a harness that goes down my body around my waist. And the great thing about V is I can walk while I play V. But because my legs aren't involved, again, with a traditional cello, we don't hold it, we place it between the legs. But because V is attached to my body, the angle is a little bit narrower, so a little steeper on this particular cello compared to cello. It's probably closer to this. V is like this. So that took some getting used to. I will say it's not a seamless transition, but I think maybe I practiced it really intensely for a month or so, maybe 2 months to really feel comfortable with the different angle, because it does affect the path of your shifting slightly because the angle is different. So it does feel a little different, but I think it's worth the extra work to be able to walk around easily with an electric cello. So that's kind of the physical differences in playing an electric cello. And one thing that's kind of cool about the electric cello is getting to play with effects. So a lot of you might have seen this with guitars. They have a pedal board where they can do a wah-wah effect. Let me do an artificial wah-wah. So if I have a note, that's kind of a quick, no electric wah-wah. You have a pedal, you can do that. You can add distortion. So all these things you can do on an electric cello, which kind of makes it a different instrument in a sense, that you can open up all of these different sounds. It's easy to amplify an electric cello. Thankfully with V, I can I can directly plug in, or I can be wireless, meaning I don't need a cable, which is very nice, especially if I do gigs where I have to walk around. You don't want to have a cable weaving by your legs if you're walking around. But the other thing I will say, if I have a pedal board and I want Shelly to do those things, I would have to put a pickup on Shelly and connect that to the pedal board and with some sort of adapter. So it's not impossible to amplify your acoustic cello, but it does require a couple more accessories. And that's kind of the basic. There's a lot more things I can get into about the exact sound. I will say it is very hard to make an electric sound like an acoustic. It's very hard to do that. And one of the reasons, if you look at the body, it's completely solid. The body of electric cellos are solid. Usually. There might be a couple brands that are different, but Shelly is hollow. You know, in between the ribs, this is all air. So you get a lot of natural resonance on the instrument, natural reverb in a sense that echoes around the body and projects. And it's hard to get that on an electric cello. You would have to pump a bunch of reverb into your pedal board. So you would have to kind of audio engineer the sound. And I will say it's hard to make an acoustic sound like a Roarin' electric that you got to sound like a really cool guitar. It's hard to do that with an amplified acoustic. So I hope that answers your question. I'm definitely much more experienced in acoustic playing than electric. Electric I'm getting more comfortable with every time I play it. So I'm sure I'll learn more, but that's a quick answer for what I've learned so far. There was a question. I see a question on YouTube, question on Instagram. Oh yes, it was about starting the cello. How long have you been playing cello? If I may ask, is it too late to begin at 26? Someone said, I started at 68. I love that. I love it. Excuse me. I don't think it's too late to start cello at any time. You know, if you are wanting to play for the enjoyment of the instrument, to make music, to have something that gives you comfort and joy, then it's never too late to start, in my opinion. If you want a super intense musical career and you want to go to a conservatory and you want to audition for some of the top orchestras in the world, you do need to start in your childhood, just because of all the years it takes to get so proficient on the instrument. I've been playing cello. Next month is August. Sorry, we're not in July yet. August is my cello anniversary. That's when I started taking lessons when I was 8. So by August, I would have been playing for 21 years. Wow, 21 years of playing cello. So, and I started when I was 8. The average age, well, I don't want to generalize, but around 5, 6 professionals, string players start. But again, this is if you want a very intense, playing music is basically most of what you do. You go to college for it. You want a full-time career in it. You know, I knew some people in college who started in middle school, high school, and they were able to get into conservatories. So if you just want to learn the instrument for joy and to experience it and to play some of your favorite music, do it. It's never too late to start. Most of my students right now are adult beginners, and it's, you know, it's a joy to teach them. It's not any more difficult than teaching other people. You know, I don't, you know, it breaks my heart if anyone's ever told you you can't play an instrument just to enjoy the instrument. So someone also said, never too late. I'm 51-year-old beginner. Yay! I love it. Someone asked, how many students do you have that are 30 plus? I have some people I see occasionally and regularly. I have about 4 or 5. So, you know, a good number, and I think it's amazing. I think anyone can learn at any age. So I hope that helps. I hope that encourages you. I definitely think you can pick up any instrument to enjoy it. So there was another question. Oh, this was on YouTube. Is it worth buying an intermediate level cello? I have 1.5 years with an Amazon cello. I bought better strings, better bow, and a luthier made adjustments. If it's so, do you recommend any brand? Sure. So I think it depends on your goals for cello. Again, a lot of my lens is as a professional, and I know that's not every single person's goal that learns cello. Again, some people just want to enjoy it. So I would be very curious to see what your luthier said, to see what their opinion was of the cello. I've heard very mixed opinions about Amazon purchases, I will say. So I would be very curious to see what your luthier had to say about it. If you are able to, if you have a cello buddy or you take lessons with your teacher, have them play it so you can listen to it and get their opinion on it. You know, somebody who might be more experienced can try more techniques on it and can really play the full potential of its sound. I will say, if you plan on having cello in the long term, you will graduate from the Amazon cello. You will graduate, I promise. I will say, cellos, it's hard. Cellos aren't like guitars in that you have brands. Unless you are going for something more in your budget, it's tricky, because I know there are carbon fiber cello brands, but in terms of wooden cellos, there aren't that many brands. And you will get more value if you buy something from a string shop or a luthier where it has a maker, meaning it's 100% made by hand. It's not something that was popped out of a factory. And I'm not trying to degrade those types of instruments, because I know some people really need an instrument on a budget and it's exactly what they need at that time. So if you found something like that and it works for you and it challenges you and motivates you, that's amazing. But this is for if you want to play cello and get fluent in it and play it long term, you will start to hear the limitations of a mass-produced instrument. So someone asked, what about a J. Hyde cello? So J. Hyde isn't a brand, it's a maker. But those instruments, it has his name on it. I believe it's a he. I should say has their name on it, if I'm not sure. Sorry. It has their name on it. And these are produced in bulk. Again, I'm not exactly sure the percentage of factory making versus handmade, or if they're all handmade. I should know that because Hyde is a pretty well-known name in cellos, but those run for about a couple grand. Sometimes they go up to $5,000, and that's expensive for a lot of beginners. So it's good to know about these things so you can oh, you're most welcome. I hope that helps. So it's not that I'm not trying to poo-poo the Amazon cello. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying eventually if you want cello for a long time in your life, you will upgrade down the road. Quick tip, if you are unsure and you go, you know what, I want to try something better, but I'm scared to commit, rent. That is an excellent way to try a cello, low commitment, see what you like, try different types. You can try a cello for a month, go back to the string shop and say, hey, I want to swap out my rental for something. I want a bigger sound. Can I try a different cello? So that's a great thing to do. Oh, we got a tip from a luthier. Yay! Thank you for contributing. So this comes from Instagram, and it says, as a luthier, I always recommend not to buy plywood cellos. These are acoustically limited. Any other wood-made cello can be upgraded. Ooh. So no to plywood, according to our friend and luthier. Thank you. That's really good advice. And usually you can look at the details of a product online, and they should tell you what wood goes into it. They really should include that detail. So thank you. Thank you for that detail. And I'll make sure I'm not losing track of the questions in the chat. Thank you for that tidbit of info. Someone asked, someone asked, would it be better to get the higher grade cello and then be able to stick with it longer? Saves money in the long run. It can. The only thing I hesitate with that is as you advance as a musician, your ears will get better. So if you hear something that's a little more expensive and you fall in love with it, that might change as your ears get better and you notice more subtleties in a cello's tone. So I know renting might cost a little more money in the long run, but I think it's worth it rather than buying something and then not liking it, and then you have buyer regret or buyer's remorse or something like that. That's hard. If you have access, again, to a teacher or cello playing buddies that are more advanced, they can try out instruments with you. So if you want to commit to something higher level earlier, have a buddy come with you and try out cellos like a teacher, someone who's very advanced and can try, and then you get to hear the cello from an audience perspective. Someone commented, Amazon cello was great because I met the instrument, my lessons, and I loved it. I'm almost 40 and I thought I couldn't learn. I'm glad you're learning. I'm glad you proved past you incorrect and that you are a budding cellist and musician. I think that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. There was a question about carbon fiber cellos. Yes, I have tried carbon fiber. Actually, recently, I got to try one out. How do I feel about them? I think they're great for, as a gigging instrument. Again, I'm seeing this through a professional lens. A lot of people want a backup instrument. So, for example, I play a lot of outdoor events in Vegas. What am I saying? In Vegas. I play a lot of events outdoors, and that's very rough on cello. And also, if we're indoors and in a busy backstage area with a lot of moving sound equipment and people running back and forth, you know, that's also a risky environment. So I got a backup instrument. It's not carbon fiber, but I know people who use them as a gigging instrument. I know people who use them because they're less expensive than some wooden cellos. Excuse me, notice I said some. A lot of people assume a carbon instrument will always be cheaper. It's not always cheaper. And that's kind of what I learned in buying my backup gigging cello. I was thinking about a carbon fiber, but I don't, you know, if anyone knows, I would love to know more about it, but my gut tells me because it's not wood, they have to really know the physics of the carbon fiber, and there's a lot of care and research that goes into replicating a wooden sound. And for all that extra effort and research and care, it might be why carbon fibers might be more expensive. I'm guessing. Oh, my buddy Frank is here, cello fan. And I found it was hard to project on this instrument. Now, granted, this was an instrument that's been played a lot, has lots of love in it, and the strings, I don't know how old the strings were, so that could be a huge factor. And, you know, it was also really hot in the summer, and where, even though it's not wood, like the bridge is wooden, and that will affect some of the instrument. So I tried it briefly once or twice, and it's hard for me to give an accurate opinion until I play more. I think it's so hard. I don't think anything is going to be an exact replica of a wooden instrument. You can get very close, but it's really hard. You know, I talk about it with people like if you have a dessert and you have a version that, I don't know, has no butter or is sugar-free or something, it's not going to taste exactly like a full cake. But you can appreciate it and it can be very good. But it's not going to taste exactly the same unless you know a very good recipe. Hit me up if you do. And sorry, it was a big analogy. But seriously, I think that they can sound very good. I've heard some recordings that have been very impressive of carbon fiber cellos. So I'm open to them, but I don't know. The ones I was looking at super high quality ones, and they were a little out of my budget. So they're out there. They are out there. Oh, cool. Someone wrote, wood is made out of plant cells that have cell walls. When wood dries, there are little pockets of spaces in them, which are hard to replicate. Ooh, well, that makes sense because something that kind of blew my mind was learning that, again, for those of you who play a wooden instrument, you know the wood can fluctuate with the weather, the humidity. Even though it's off of the tree, part of the wood is still alive. Well, don't do this to me. Okay, we're back. Yeah, even though the wood is taken from the tree, it's still alive. Like, that's amazing. If you really think about that, that's amazing. That part of the tree still lives and it has these organic properties. And that's hard with something synthetic, which is what carbon fiber is. It is a synthetic material. Awesome questions. You guys are awesome. I might want to stream on Thursdays. I might change it to Thursdays. I don't know. Maybe more of you are online. I don't know. Let me know. If Thursdays are better for you, leave a comment or comment on my post on Instagram, the photo I posted for today. Cool. Let me see. There was what do you think about gear pegs and their pros and cons? My geared pegs, I love them. They're amazing. So, those of you who might not know, I was plagued for years with slippery pegs, and my already above average anxiety was worse. When I would go to, I don't know, maybe this is peak time for those YouTube streamers. I don't know. Okay, good. Someone wrote, I have geared pegs and I love them. I love them too. So basically, the way it works is a lot like a guitar geared tuners at the top of the neck. You're not helping. I don't know why. Okay, we're back. Okay. As I was saying, the geared pegs work similarly to the pegs on top of a guitar. And you know, you just turn them a little bit. There's a good amount of resistance because there's gears inside. Whereas on a traditional cello, it's just a piece of wood in there that is wound. There's nothing mechanical about it. It's a piece of wood. So imagine my bow is a peg. And the string is wrapped around a bunch of times. And as you crank it, it gets sharp. As you unturn it, it becomes flat. But because it's just wood and there's nothing holding it there but friction, there's nothing holding it in place, it can slip and completely unravel, and that can be problematic. So the great thing about geared pegs is they're mechanic, and it's what it sounds like. They're gears that mesh together and have more security. And the technology has gotten much more advanced in the past 5 years or so. I know before, one person I knew had them and they looked like guitar pegs. Some of you will see those types of pegs. Well, they weren't exactly like a guitar peg. I shouldn't say that, because a lot of double basses have these types of pegs, for those of you who know an upright double bass, but they're metal. Now, look at, for Instagram, and now for YouTube, you can see that it looks like a traditional peg. It looks the same, but the mechanics are hidden inside. So if you were to put an X-ray machine, you would see a bunch of gears inside. So if I want to tune, I'm just going to hold it traditionally and hope y'all can see. Okay? It's so easy. It's so easy to tune them. I will say, what are some cons? You know, I always wonder if it affects the sound of the instrument, having kind of heftier material up there. I've been told it doesn't. I haven't really heard anything substantial. The only thing I will say is, since it is more mechanics up there, it's, you know, built, they sometimes have to adjust the holes in your peg box, so they will have to adjust those. You know, there might be more buzzing. You know, maybe you might hear something buzzing. I don't know. But I can't really think of that many cons. Honestly, I can't really think about too many. What I will say, if you are unsure about geared pegs, get the kind that are reversible. Not all geared pegs are reversible, and I learned this recently because I did a bunch of research before I invested in geared pegs. And oh, I did think of one minor con, but it's not really a con. I'll get to it in a sec. Yeah, these are Whittaker, it starts with a W, and I never remember the brand, but these are reversible. So you can go back. The installation process isn't that invasive. Some of them have like drilling and screws involved. I would avoid that. Again, it's more modifications on your instrument, more of a risk of a sound change. The only thing I will say, I don't know, those string players out there, you go in a cold hall and, well, no, it's not, that's not a good example. I will say my instrument took some time to adjust, and I find I adjust the tuning a little bit more than I used to, but it's very minor. Like maybe I check in on my tuning one extra time, maybe twice. Again, maybe Cello has to adjust to having geared pegs, but I do find I have to check my tuning a little more often, but it could just be a quirk of my instrument. Final. Well, yeah, this might have to be the final question. Can you talk to me about left elbow? I'm having pain after playing for 20 minutes. What is the correct left elbow? Sure, I will try to help you. The left elbow. So, again, if you're experiencing pain, something is wrong and we need to reevaluate, always. So, let's talk about the left elbow. Boop, boop, boop. So, sorry, I'm trying to get my elbow. I have my phone, and behind my phone is my laptop for YouTube. So I gotta like sit in a way that you both can see me. Okay, so reasons we might have left elbow pain. First thing I'm gonna ask you is if your thumb is squeezing. Because from our elbow, we have all these tendons that run down our arm. So in a way, if you're squeezing here, it can go down your arm and impact your elbow. Believe it or not, you might think, but my thumb's all the way up here. Well, our anatomy is all interconnected. So that can be a huge part of it. If your thumb is squeezing, another indicator is if you ever have pain here in your palm underneath your thumb, that is another symptom of a squeezing thumb. Excuse me. Oh, this person did a follow-up. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. I didn't even have soda or carbonated drinks. Because I did that once on a live stream and I just could not stop burping and it was really funny. But I'm burping from water. It's not fair. I feel like my elbow might be really low. You read my mind for the second tip. Yes. Your elbow might be low. And we want to have a supportive left elbow. And I say that, but your elbow, when you do that, you actually activate the muscles in your back. And that has a lot more strength and power than our elbow or arm on its own. So by having the supportive left elbow, you're actually taking effort and strain off of your elbow. So, yeah, but cello doll, what's too high? What's like the Goldilocks for the left elbow? Well, believe it or not, your wrist is a great indicator. So again, this is all to access your back. Everything is so interconnected. So you want an elbow height where you don't want to bump in the wrist. So sometimes I see this. That's a bump. That's not good. If it's too high, there's a dip. That's not good. So you don't want to dip. You don't want to bump. And some people think they lift it up. You don't want to lift it up that way either. It's kind of like it comes out of your body like this. It's this kind of swing out. Yes, you can see that on YouTube as well. So swing your elbow up. And again, you have to find a good curved left hand, right? If I lift this up, my fingers are on their tippy toes, and that's not good. This is a trick I saw from cellist extraordinaire Peter Howard, amazing cellist. So I can't take credit for this. He recommended, it's so cool, you can use your bow and lay it on, so don't let go of it, but just lay it on top. And if you dip, there's a gap. If you raise, it's like a seesaw. So if it's flush against your arm and wrist, that's a good elbow height. So that's what I recommend to you to fix that left elbow discomfort. Oh, you're most welcome. That's why I'm here. They were very on YouTube. Thank you. Truly thank you for answering my question. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. That's why I do this. Is to help you all, or try to be helpful. I try my best. There we go. We are back. Okay. So that is, I think that's all the time we have for today for the live stream. Thank you all so much for joining me on the live stream. And again, I do these, excuse me, I do these at the end of every month. I mean, I was doing Tuesdays to fit with my Cello Tip Tuesday, but if you prefer Thursdays, let me know. Might be a switcheroo we do. I don't know. You are all so welcome. This is so fun. I also love it. I just have to say, I love it when I see people contributing in the chat and encouraging each other in the chat. You know, for example, saying, you know, I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s, and I'm starting cello. I think that kind of encouragement is amazing. And I really want my platforms to be a space for that. Especially when I have my teaching materials, and to see encouraging comments is awesome. So I think that's really, really awesome. And again, if this is something that interests you, I do Cello Tip live streams. And they're this format. They're an open forum, Q&A, a chance for you all to ask for tips and tricks, questions you have about your practicing. And I do this at the end of every month. So I will say on YouTube, I do use my fancier microphone, so the audio is a little better. And I also appreciate the subscription. So if you're on Instagram and you didn't know I had YouTube, I have a lot of tip videos, play along videos, come practice with me videos to help you all out. So check out the channel. Subscribing is an incredible way to show your support. And I'll see you all next month for the July Cello Tips and Tricks live stream. All right. Goodbye, my dolls. Have a wonderful day or night or morning, wherever you are. And I'll talk to you soon. Chelly says bye too. Goodbye.